Rain had just rinsed the morning sky clean when Sam Torres and his best friend Jake Whitaker kicked their boards up and caught them by the trucks in one smooth motion. The boards slapped into their palms like applause. They stood in front of the glass cathedral of a luxury car dealership, where the floor inside gleamed like the surface of a lake and two Rolls-Royces rested under the lights like sleeping whales. Sam was 17, all elbows and determination, the kind of kid who could fix a chain on a BMX with a paperclip and a prayer. Jake, same age, taller, with a grin that earned him detention twice as often as it got him out of trouble. Their sneakers were damp from skating through puddles, and the cuffs of their jeans were dusty with city grit. Backpacks slumped on their shoulders, heavy with textbooks and a toolbox Sam insisted on carrying everywhere. "You never know when something will need fixing," he always said. "Dude," Jake breathed, fogging the glass. "Look at that grill, it's like a jawline made of money." Sam smirked. "Careful, if you stare long enough, they charge you a viewing fee." He said it like a joke, but his eyes didn't move. He was looking past the black Rolls-Royce to the silver one in the corner, a ghost with hand-stitched seats the color of cream and a dash that looked like a night sky trapped in wood. He imagined hands at 10 and 2, the world shrinking to windshield and road noise and possibility. Not because he was a car kid, though he was, but because he'd grown up watching his mom drive home from double shifts in a sun-faded Corolla that coughed at red lights and rattled over potholes like a shopping cart. Sam had spent his whole life learning that some machines just needed patience and love to keep going. People too. A man inside noticed them and stiffened the way small dogs stiffen when they think they're bigger than they are. He had perfect hair, a blue tie tight enough to keep the blood in his face from moving, and a name tag that said Randall, sales director. He walked toward the sliding doors on shoes that had never met oil stain. "Here we go," Jake muttered. The doors sighed open. Cool, perfumed air spilled out, leather, cologne, and money. Randall stepped into the morning as if the air outside was thinner and less worthy. His smile cut across his face like a receipt. "Can I help you boys with something?" he asked, already bored. "Just looking," Sam said. He kept his voice soft, like he'd learned to do with cranky engines. Randall's eyes slid down their thrift store t-shirts, their loose shoelaces, the boards in their hands. He didn't see two kids who could take a broken radio apart and put it back together better, or friends who pulled A's in physics by building a wind turbine from spare parts. He saw two numbers that didn't add up. "This isn't a skate park," Randall said. "Why don't you roll along?" Jake opened his mouth. Sam nudged him with an elbow. "We won't touch anything," Sam said. "I promise." Something in that promise annoyed Randall more than anything else. "That's precisely what I'm afraid of," he said. "Go on. Get out." The words were louder than they had to be. People inside turned. A woman in a cream blazer glanced from her phone. A mechanic in a crisp jumpsuit stopped pushing a cart. The black Rolls-Royce gleamed behind Randall like an accomplice. "Big mistake," Jake said under his breath, not to threaten but to bottle the sting. He hated that hot, helpless feeling that rose up when someone shoved you into a box you were already trying to climb out of. Sam swallowed. His throat tasted like pennies. He had chosen this place deliberately. He'd spent nights reading spec sheets by the light of his cheap lamp, memorizing engine numbers as if they were scripture. Today he didn't want to buy a car. He wanted to ask about an apprenticeship program he'd seen mentioned online, mechanical internship, no experience required, passion preferred. He wanted to talk to the shop foreman, to volunteer, to sweep floors, to be near the heartbeats of machines that purred like lions. "Sir," Sam tried again, "I actually came to." "I said," Randall snapped, each word stamped like a tire mark, "get out." The doors shivered behind him, the sensor confused by how close he stood to the threshold. Jake's easy grin fled. Sam's ears burned. He glanced past Randall, toward the service bay, hoping to catch a glimpse of the foreman whose name he'd written in his notebook, M. Gaines. The bay doors were half down. He could see nothing but the mouth of shadow and a red tool chest like a row of soldered drawers. "Come on," Jake said, low. "We're not giving this clown a show." Sam nodded, but he did it slow, like turning a wrench carefully so you don't strip the bolt. He lifted his board. As they stepped back, the doors slid shut between them and the polished world like a decision. Their reflections on the glass looked thinner on the outside. Randall stood on the other side with his arms folded, a guard who'd just kept the castle safe. The thing about humiliation is that it grows legs. It follows you to the curb, follows you into silence, sits with you on a concrete planters while traffic breathes past. Jake paced. Sam watched the silver ghost through the window, the way the light moved across its hood in a slow, liquid wave, and tried not to imagine movement he didn't deserve. "You okay?" Jake asked finally. Sam nodded once, then again, because the first nod didn't feel like enough to convince his face. "Yeah, we could leave," Jake said. "Go hit the loading dock and practice kickflips until the world feels small." Sam was about to say sure when the dealership's side door opened. A woman stepped out, not in heels but in scuffed black boots that said "I lift things." Her hair was gathered into a no-nonsense bun, and there was grease under her nails like war paint. The name badge on her coveralls said M. Gaines. She looked both ways, as if crossing a street of egos, then walked toward them. Jake murmured, "Uh-oh. Back up." But Ms. Gaines stopped 2 feet away and did something Randall hadn't. She made eye contact that said human. "You the kids he just barked at?" she asked, voice neutral as a torque wrench. Sam stood. "Yes, ma'am." Her gaze flicked to the boards, to their shoes, back to Sam's face. "You came here to look." "I came here to ask about the internship," Sam said, heat rising to his ears again. I fix things. If I can. And if I can't, I learn. I read you're the foreman. I thought maybe." Ms. Gaines' mouth tugged at the corner like a line catching a fish. She said, "What's a dead battery red with no surface charge?" Jake blinked. Sam answered before he could think. "Just over 12.6 when it's healthy. If it's a little under, it might be fine, but if it's sitting at 12.2 and drops to 11.7 under load, it's done pretending." She didn't smile, but the air around her changed, like someone opened a window. "What seat leather do we use in the Ghost?" Sam swallowed a laugh, surprised. "That one's a trick. People think it's about the leather, but it's about the stitching. They pick it to match the customer's story. I don't know the name." He felt his face go red. "Yet." Ms. Gaines nodded, as if he'd placed a bolt on the right tray. She held out a card, old-fashioned and heavy with a deep blue logo. "Come back at 3. Side door. Bring boots." "Not those." She tilted her chin at their wet sneakers. "And tell your friend Randall you're here to see me." Jake's eyebrows launched off his face. Sam took the card with both hands, like it might shatter. "Yes, ma'am." She walked away without waiting for thanks, cutting behind a row of manicured hedges, back through the side door that swallowed her like a secret. Jake exhaled a laugh that startled 2 pigeons. Dude, we're not cursed. We're chosen." Sam stared at the card. It said Maya Gaines, foreman, Whitmore Luxury Motors Precision. Integrity. Heart. He looked at the last word twice. "Let's not blow it," he said quietly. "Us," Jake said. "We never blow it. We occasionally set it on fire by accident." They bumped fists. Then they did exactly what kids who've been told to leave do best. They left. But not far. They grabbed sandwiches from the bodega across the street, where the register sat under a fading poster for a band that had never been famous, and they camped on the curb with a view of the dealership. They killed hours with homework and a screwdriver Sam used to tighten a loose wheel on the borrowed shopping cart an older man pushed by. Sam fixed it and the man thanked him like he'd handed him 20 minutes of his day back. At 2:57, they returned. The sky had pulled a halo of late afternoon light over the city. Jake tucked his board under his arm like a small animal. Sam wiped his palms on his jeans and tried to make his heartbeat match the clicking of a crosswalk signal. He was wearing his dad's work boots, cracked along the sides where a life of construction had bent them. They were half a size big and heavy with history. The side door hummed open. Sam pulled it and held it for Jake. They stepped into a corridor that smelled like rubber and triumph. The sound of the showroom was distant, muffled by glass and money. Here, metal talked, air tools chattered, laughter ricocheted off concrete and confidence. Ms. Gaines waited by a lift. "You're on time," she said, which sounded suspiciously like good. She led them to a bay where a phantom sat like a sleeping dinosaur on stilts, its underbelly exposed, a small galaxy of parts and pressure and patience. Mechanics moved around it in choreography, each person a note in a complicated chord. Ms. Gaines handed Sam a pair of safety glasses and a shop towel. She gave Jake both too, and added, "You watch, you ask questions, you don't touch unless I say. You break it, you own it. You impress me, you get a week." "A week," Jake squeaked. "Trial," Ms. Gaines said. "Earned beats inherited." Sam pressed the words into his chest like a stamp. "Yes, ma'am." They watched as she pointed to sensors, to the way a wire should lie like it belongs there and not like it's hiding. She quizzed them, hard and fast, and Sam swam through answers with strokes he didn't know he knew. When he didn't know, he said so, and listened like a dry sponge. Half an hour in, a shadow fell across the bay. Randall. He had an expression for dealing with stain removers and another for dealing with boys who shouldn't exist. He wore the second now. "Maya," he said, creamy smile in place. "We don't run a community center." "Liability." Ms. Gaines didn't look up from the torque wrench. "Randall, if I need help with liability, I'll call our insurer. These boys are with me." "They were loitering," Randall said. "Outside. With skateboards. Then they've been promoted," she said, calmly ratcheting. "To inside. Without skateboards." Randall shifted his weight. He was good at sales because he could share a smile with 15 people at once and make none of them feel seen. "The owner's here," he said, like a threat. "I'd hate for him to get the wrong impression." "From what?" Ms. Gaines asked. "Kids learning. That we're a shop that believes in giving chances to people with hands and hearts." Randall's smile didn't move. "From optics." Jake whispered behind his hand. "That's rich people for don't scare the customers." Sam elbowed him again, but softer. The trial had barely begun. The owner didn't appear then. But the threat of him stayed, like thunder beyond the horizon. Randall retreated with a last disapproving scan that snagged on Sam's boots. He winced as if they offended him. "Focus, Ms. Gaines murmured to Sam, like a coach. "Noise is loud when your work is quiet. Make the work louder." So Sam did. He learned the torque pattern on a V12 like a hymn. He listened to a mechanic named Deshaun explain why you don't insult a perfectly good gasket with lazy sealant. He watched a woman named Priya trace an electrical draw like a detective. He handed tools when told, asked if he could try only after he'd repeated the instructions back perfectly. He messed up exactly once, nearly put a tray down where the tire would come, and Ms. Gaines didn't flay him alive. She said, "We look where the weight will be before the weight arrives." He nodded so hard his glasses slipped. "At 5, Ms. Gaines clapped her hands once. "That's it. Come back at 7 tomorrow. Before school." "Before?" Jake's voice cracked into a question mark. "Internship hours don't care about algebra 2, Ms. Gaines said. "You want it or you don't." Sam felt the word want reach into his chest and hook something that had been waiting to be pulled forward. "I want it." "Good," she said. She scribbled on a form. "We'll handle the waivers. Bring your parent or guardian this week to sign. And," she softened a notch, "ignore the peacock. He thinks polish is the same as worth." They were almost at the side door when it opened inward. Not Randall. A tall man in his late 30s with salt at his temples and a tie loosened like he'd been fighting with a spreadsheet all day stepped in. He had a face that would have photographed well on billboards but chose not to. His suit was expensive in the way that wasn't trying to impress anyone. His eyes were tired, not mean. "Sorry," he said. "Which bay is Maya in?" Then he saw her. Ms. Gaines nodded to him. "Mr. Whitmore." Jake's head flicked so fast his cap almost flew. Sam froze with one boot across the threshold. Whitmore as in Whitmore Luxury Motors. As in the name on the building in 6-foot letters that glowed at night like a crown. "Evening," the man said, then noticed the boys. "You must be new." "Trial day," Ms. Gaines said. "Sam, Jake, boys, this is Ezra Whitmore." Ezra Whitmore smiled, real and easy. "Welcome." Then, Sam managed, "Thank you, sir." Ezra's gaze narrowed just a hair, recognition catching on something in Sam's face the way a magnet finds a nail in a drawer of screws. His eyes dropped to Sam's boots, to the cracked leather, to the little notched V the sole made with the concrete. "Everything okay?" he asked Ms. Gaines, tone light but layered. "Everything's fine," she said. "Except Randall." Ezra sighed the sigh of a man whose brand survived despite 1,000 paper cuts daily. "I'll talk to him." He stepped aside to let the boys pass. "See you tomorrow." Outside, the sky was the color of copper pennies and hope. They walked to the corner without speaking. Then Jake whooped so loud a dachshund across the street rethought his entire evening. "Tomorrow," Jake said, hopping his board to the ground with a clack. "We come back tomorrow." Sam didn't step on his board. Not yet. He stood there, palms open, like a person who'd just been given something invisible but heavy. He looked back at the glass. Behind it, the silver ghost waited, patient as the moon. "Tomorrow," he echoed. They started home, the city humming around them, the small beautiful noise of being young and almost ready. They passed the laundromat, where Mrs. Alvarez waved from behind a fogged window, the corner where Mr. Ramos sold hot dogs no one wanted until they smelled them, the apartment building where a kid practiced trumpet until the notes learned how to stand. They passed Sam's mom's Corolla, sun-bleached and steady, the hood warm from a day of work. He touched the fender with his fingertips and felt the heartbeat of metal cooling. At the third-floor walk-up, his mother, Lila, looked up from the kitchen table where bills lay like a mosaic. Her hair was still tucked under a diner bandana. The smell of onions and coffee floated around her like a tired halo. "You're late," she said, but with a smile that meant you're safe. Sam told her about the shop. He told her about Ms. Gaines and torque patterns and the foreman's patience, and he carefully did not tell her about Randall because he didn't want to give that man a room in their apartment. He saved the part about Ezra Whitmore for last, like a chocolate you weren't sure you'd earned. When he finished, Lila leaned back and looked at him like he was a new kind of sunrise. "They saw you," she said. "The right ones saw you." He felt something break and mend inside at once. "I have to be there at 7. Then I'll get you there," she said, as if that had ever been in doubt. "We'll wake up at 5. I'll pack you breakfast, and I'll sign whatever they want me to sign. The only thing I won't sign is your dream over to somebody else." He smiled down into his lap and said, "Thanks, Mom." "Just promise me," she added, soft. "Promise me you'll keep your head. There are people who will clap when you fail because it makes their small world feel safer." "I know," Sam said. He didn't say Randall. He thought it. That night, while the city rolled over and settled into its own sleep, Sam lay awake. He pictured hands tightening bolts in the right order so nothing warped. He pictured wires that didn't argue with current. He pictured a life where the thing he loved wasn't a hobby but a language. He thought about boots that fit. And because he was 17 and human, he imagined one more thing. Him, one day, walking back into a bright showroom not to buy a car or to prove anything, but because someone younger than him would be standing outside with a skateboard and a question in his eyes, and someone would need to be the person who opens the door. In the dark, he whispered, "Make the work louder," and drifted into a sleep that smelled faintly of motor oil and rain. Morning came with a pale wash of gold. Lila's voice lifted through the apartment, gentle and relentless. They ate egg sandwiches wrapped in foil. Sam tied his dad's boots tight, double-knotted them the way you knot hope. Jake knocked at 5:40, hair catastrophe, grin perfect. They thundered down 3 flights like a small storm. At 6:47, they stood again at the side door to Whitmore Luxury Motors. The city was still yawning. Traffic was a suggestion. Sam's stomach fizzed with a good fear, the kind that tells you you're exactly where you should be, just not yet the person you're about to become. The door opened. Ms. Gaines was already there, sipping from a thermos the size of a small fire extinguisher. "You're early," she said, as if this were a test they'd both expected him to pass. "Wanted to make the work louder," Sam said. For the first time, Ms. Gaines' mouth turned fully into a smile. They stepped into the shop together, and didn't see the storm forming in the showroom, where Ezra Whitmore and Randall stood in front of a large window while a wealthy client complained about optics and loitering teens and brand dilution. Didn't see the way Randall leaned close and said, "Silky as a ribbon, we must protect the experience." They didn't see the decision. That would ripple through the day like a crack through glass. They didn't hear Randall's final sentence, the one that would try to slam a door on the very moment Sam had waited his life to open. "Get them out." Sam only felt the weight of a wrench in his hand, honest and heavy, and the small joy that comes when a seized bolt finally loosens under patient force. He didn't know yet that patience would be tested, that shame would come looking for him again in a nicer suit, that big mistake was not an endpoint but a fuse. He only knew the hum of the shop, the nod of a foreman, the quiet love of a mother, and the thrum of a future that, for the first time, sounded like it might recognize his name. The morning air inside Whitmore Luxury Motors was sharper than the outside world, as if it had been filtered through steel and ambition. Sam followed Ms. Gaines through the service bay, boots heavy on the concrete, heart heavier still with nerves that somehow felt good, like the anticipation before the drop on a roller coaster. Jake, carrying his board like a bodyguard, muttered, "Man, this place smells like money and gasoline had a baby." Sam shot him a look, but Ms. Gaines only smirked faintly. "It smells like work," she corrected. "And sweat, and sometimes heartbreak, but mostly, it smells like people who care enough to do things right." That line lodged itself into Sam's chest like a brand. He was here because he cared enough. He had to. The backstory of struggle. Sam's family hadn't always lived in that cramped apartment above the laundromat. Once, when he was 5, he remembered his father's laugh echoing through a garage of their own, a garage that smelled of pine from the half-finished shelves and oil from the Chevy pickup his dad swore he would restore. His dad's hands were wide, strong, always warm even when stained black with grease. But the accident took him. A scaffold collapse at a construction site, a single missed inspection. Sam's mom, Lila, was left with hospital bills and a 5-year-old boy who suddenly learned silence far earlier than he should have. The garage was sold. The laughter became memory. The Corolla became lifeline. Lila worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3. Diner shifts, cleaning offices, babysitting for neighbors. Sam grew up doing homework in back booths, under buzzing neon signs, his mother sliding fries onto plates while whispering times tables under her breath for him to hear. She was exhausted but unyielding. That was why he wanted this. Not just a job, not just an internship. He wanted to show her that her years of sacrifice had planted something that bloomed. He wanted her to look at him one day and know it was worth it. Randall's shadow. Randall, however, wasn't done with them. At exactly 9 o'clock, he swept into the service bay, his shoes polished enough to reflect the fluorescent lights, his smile already sharpened. "Ms. Gaines," he said, "we've had a complaint." She didn't look up from the diagnostic tablet she was scrolling through. "From who?" "A client who thinks cars fix themselves." Randall's jaw twitched. "From a client who saw skateboarders wandering into restricted areas. The brand's reputation is delicate. We must be careful about the image we project." Jake muttered, "Image. This guy's a human mirror." Randall's eyes flicked to Jake. "And you are his lawyer," Jake said instantly, jerking his thumb at Sam. "Pro bono. Specializes in not listening to nonsense." Ms. Gaines almost choked on a laugh. "They're here on my authority, Randall. Direct complaints to me." But Randall's gaze lingered on Sam, calculating. "Authority has limits," he said smoothly. "And the owner's patience has them too." He turned and left, leaving behind the faint smell of cologne. "And disdain." Sam exhaled slowly. "He's going to get us kicked out, isn't he?" Ms. Gaines finally looked up. "Not if you make yourself too valuable to lose. Randall sells cars. Cars don't run if the people behind them don't know their craft. Show me you can learn. A lesson in grit." She handed Sam a socket wrench. "Torque these bolts to spec. No more, no less." Sam crouched under the Phantom's massive chassis, the world shrinking to metal and math. He tightened 1, 2, 3, each click of the wrench like a heartbeat. Sweat formed at his hairline. His shoulders ached, but he didn't stop until the pattern was perfect. When he finished, Ms. Gaines leaned in, checked his work, and gave a single nod. "Good. You've got patience." Those 3 words tasted like a feast. Jake whispered, "Bro, she likes you. She really likes you." Sam couldn't stop his grin. For the first time in years, he felt like he was exactly where he belonged. Ezra Whitmore notices. Later that afternoon, Ezra Whitmore walked through the bay again. His suit jacket was gone, tie loose, as if he wore the day's battles openly. He stopped when he saw Sam bent over the engine, brow furrowed in concentration. "What's your name, son?" Ezra asked. Sam nearly dropped the wrench. Sam Torres, sir." Ezra studied him for a moment, then glanced at Ms. Gaines. "Yours. Trial," she said. "He's got grit." Ezra nodded, then addressed Sam again. "Do you know what makes a Rolls-Royce different from any other car?" Sam hesitated. "The details." Ezra smiled faintly. "Exactly. Most people say luxury, wealth, but it's the details. Every stitch, every bolt, every hand that touches it leaves part of themselves in it. You want to be here. Learn that, respect that, live that." Sam nodded, heart pounding. Ezra clapped his shoulder once, light, but enough to ignite a fire that would burn all night. Then he walked away, leaving Randall fuming in the shadows of the glass corridor above, watching like a hawk denied its prey. Building the pressure. Over the next week, Sam woke before dawn every day. He and Jake skated through empty streets, boards rattling like drums announcing their arrival. They worked until their fingers cramped, then went to school with grease under their nails, then did homework in the diner while Lila poured coffee for strangers. The whispers began. Randall complaining about optics. Clients asking why kids were in the service bay. Employees betting whether the boys would last a week. But Sam didn't care. Each day he grew more certain. Each day he saw more of Ezra Whitmore, the owner whose quiet eyes seemed to recognize something in him. And then, one evening, everything snapped. Randall cornered Sam near the showroom, voice sharp. "Do you know who comes here, boy? Men who sign checks bigger than your life. They don't want to see you dragging mud across their marble. You don't belong here." Sam clenched his fists, not in anger, but in the desperate ache of someone who's been told their whole life they're less. He opened his mouth, but Ezra's voice cut across the room. "Randall, enough." Randall spun. "Sir, I was only. You were only reminding me why a company fails," Ezra said coldly. "When we forget people, when we trade humanity for optics, we lose the soul of what we build." He looked at Sam. "Finish your work, son." Sam nodded, throat tight. Randall's smile was gone. His eyes promised war. The twist foreshadowed. That night, Sam lay awake again, staring at the ceiling, the hum of the city beyond the thin walls. He thought about Ezra's words, about Randall's hatred, about his mother's tired but proud smile. He didn't know yet that his father's accident, the scaffolding collapse that had shattered their family, was tied to Whitmore Construction, the company Ezra had inherited before expanding into luxury cars. He didn't know that Randall, desperate for control, would dig into Sam's past and find the truth. And he didn't know that one day soon, standing in the very showroom where he'd been told to get out, he would discover that the line between humiliation and destiny was thinner than glass.